Everyone. So Joel Embiid went down on January 30th. And since then, the Philadelphia 76ers have struggled mightily. They have currently dropped to the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Luckily, they were so far ahead of the pack that worst case, they're probably, you would imagine, finish at worst 7th or 8th, which isn't good. This is a team that was the 3 seed, looked like they had a real shot at maybe the 2 seed. The Celtics were just so far and away of everybody and still are. But this was a team that looked like, okay, man, maybe they could finally make some noise. Got off of James Harden. There was a lot of questions about is this kind of like an in-between season? What is going to end up happening? And the 76ers were having a very solid season. They were coming off of a significant kind of win streak and run. Before Joel Embiid went down, they had won 6 straight and looked like a team that was headed in the right direction. And since that 6-game win streak, they have struggled mightily. To put it nicely. So they currently have only won 4 out of their last 16 games. They have 12 losses in their last 16 games. They're losing kind of to everybody. Good teams, bad teams, in between teams. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak against the Bucks and the Celtics, which, is understandable. It's the Bucks and the Celtics, but they've lost to the Heat, the Knicks. They lost to the Hawks, the Warriors, the Mavs, the Nets, the Warriors again, the Trailblazers, the Nuggets, the Pacers, right? They're having some tough go-ahead, and it doesn't really get much easier. They got a game coming up against the Hornets, and they need Joel Embiid sooner rather than later, desperately. Again, this is a team that is currently tied for 5th with the Miami Heat, but they're also only half a game of falling into the 8th seed. Luckily, they have a 6-game lead on the Chicago Bulls and a 7-game lead on the Atlanta Hawks for that 9th and 10th spot. So they should be fine in that regard. But it's just, if they continue at the pace that they're going right now, then very likely they're going to end up finishing the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And that's not where they planned on being. But we got some new little updates per Woj. So Adrian Wojnarowski said, I think there's some hope that they can get him back on the court sometime in late March. So obviously, this team is trying to scramble. They're trying to survive without their best player. If any team lost their best player for this significant amount of time, they're going to have their struggles. But this is also the issue without having that bona fide second star. Don't get me wrong, Tyrese Maxey has had himself quite a season. Tyrese Maxey has been very solid this year, but he's not there yet, right? He's still extremely young. He's not there in the regards of he can just completely just dominate and control and take over a game and be your best player on any given night, right? He has his moments. He has his stretches. He'll get there. Again, he's 23 years old and he's spectacular. I'm very high on Tyrese Maxey, but we saw James Harden, when Joel Embiid was out, take over games and win games. Even in the playoffs, he won an entire game by himself, right? This is a guy that, when you have that secondary star, you can kind of offset and survive and weather a little bit more. I'm not saying that they would have won 12 out of their last 16, but I don't think that they would have lost as many as they have. The beauty of the Sixers team was the depth and the overall talent front to back and the versatility that this roster has. But without Joel Embiid, they have no clear-cut star. They don't have that guy who can just take over and control and just go win you games. Right? You have guys that can have moments. Again, you look at a Tobias Harris. He had a monster game where they were able to pull off the win. Again, Tyrese Maxey. But the problem is that the Sixers are in this spot where it's okay, you can rush Joel Embiid back or get Joel Embiid back, say mid to late March. And it's okay, so maybe he has, let's say, 10 games to kind of get back into the swing of things before you get into the postseason. The concern was always is this a true contending team? Could they win a lot of games? Could they look good? Yeah, absolutely. Joel Embiid's having a historically great season. There was a lot of arguments of him winning the MVP had he played enough games. Now, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to get that accolade. But it always was a question of is this team really capable of coming out of the Eastern Conference with Joel Embiid as your only star. I personally talked about this heavily. I didn't believe it. I thought at best that they were a second round exit. Could a couple things fall your way and now you're in the conference final? Sure, of course. But I just don't think that they're better than, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Knicks. Cleveland, I think they have a shot against. I think that's one of those things that could go back and forth. I know the Knicks have struggled mightily since all the injuries, but I think once they get back, they'll be a solid team. So I had my questions about okay, can they beat anybody in the Eastern Conference, right? Yes, of course, I think anyone can beat anybody. All of these teams you can make an argument for, but the Sixers, it's just Joel Embiid is not known for being this great playoff performer and a guy that just has never disappeared, right? How many games has he disappeared to where it's oh, now you're going to lose those games? It's just a lot of questions with the Sixers. But I did think that they were a team that at least had, kind of a puncher's chance in the Eastern Conference. I thought that they had a lot of depth, a lot of talent, a lot of guys that, with Joel Embiid and him and all the attention that he draws really kind of opens things up for everybody and makes it kind of difficult at times, especially when guys are clicking. You add in, a Buddy Hield who has the ability to just go off at any moment, knock down several threes. It's huge. I really like the acquisition of Buddy Hield for the Sixers team. But to me, it's okay, what are your options here, right? One, you bring Joel Embiid back, right? And you get him back with 10 games left, and hopefully you can get out of that 7th or 8th spot, right? The other option is you just rest him as long as possible. You drop to the 7th or 8th seed, which you may end up getting regardless, depending on one, when he comes back, and two, even if he does come back, what does he look like? Does it take him a couple games to get back into the swing of things? I mean, even a 70% Joel Embiid is better than a no Joel Embiid, but still, do you really want to run the risk of losing him throughout the postseason? Because then you have no shot, or even potentially him having a significant injury that bleeds into next year. You don't want any of that. So to me, and again, this is my thoughts. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. But to me, I think it's in their best interest to just sit Joel Embiid out as long as possible. Even if you have to go, he doesn't play till the postseason, then he doesn't play till the postseason, right? Or I guess the play-in tournament, right? Because, again, your other alternative is potentially risking him rushing back, which he did, and he played, and guess what? He got hurt even longer. Do you really want to run the risk of that again? And now you're definitely cooked. Where to me, I just look at it as you're probably going to fall into that 7th or 8th seed regardless. Maybe you can rattle off some wins here and put yourself in a position that's better. March kind of lightens up in some spots, not great. They still have a pretty tough schedule coming up, but you do have teams like the Hornets, the Nets. I do believe that they could beat without them. The Knicks have really struggled since all the injuries. You play them twice. Can you get one of those wins? The Grizzlies. You got the Hornets again. You got a handful of games that are very winnable without Joel Embiid. Can you just kind of weather the storm, kind of maybe stay in that fight for the 6th seed, and then let Joel Embiid kind of rest, get right, and then in the postseason, or if you are in the play-in, which, again, you may end up either way, you bring him back, you go win that one play-in game, which you'd probably end up playing the Sixers or the Magic or the Pacers, which either team I believe the Sixers can win in one game. And then even if you lose that game, you're going up against the Bulls or the Hawks. I think you'll be in great shape either way. So I think you'll win the play-in tournament. Now you're playing Cleveland or the Bucks. I think if you play Cleveland, I do think you have a real shot. I think you can beat them. Bucks would be kind of tough, but imagine a first round matchup between the Bucks and the Sixers. That'd be quite a matchup. But that's my thing. I just what is the incentive of bringing him back, right? You're struggling anyway. And the struggle started even with Joel Embiid. Again, he was kind of dealing with that injury regardless, kind of rushed back and it got worse. But I don't know. I think just be precautious, right? Take caution to rush him back again and now you lose him for the postseason. Now your season's definitely over, and then you potentially could lose him for longer next season. I don't like that idea. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you agree with me? Do you think, yes, rest him as long as possible? Obviously, look, if he's 100% healthy and he's good to go, bring him back. I'm not saying like, just you have to sit him until the postseason. I'm saying like, if you can rest him a little longer and make sure he's healthy, rest him a little longer and make sure he's healthy. I'd rather just ensure that he's 100% and good to go. But anyway, again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.